Welcome back. This is the second video that I'm doing on these, based on this article that I found. I'll link the article below. And this article talked about raising emotionally intelligent kids. And I think emotional intelligence has really become a focus of our world. We used to really focus on the mental, but mental health, and we call it mental health, but really it's mental or even more so emotional health, I would say. That's coming from a therapist, so perhaps I'm biased, but that's how I see it. And it's really important because when we're not, when we don't have emotional intelligence, excuse me, our brain, when we get emotionally activated or triggered, our brain, certain circuits turn off. We go into fight or flight, and what's often called our survival brain. And we don't have access to our higher level of thinking, of relating, of being in relationship, of considering other people's needs and many other things. And so the second point in this article, I want to talk about each point in a video, is of emotionally intelligent kids, right, who have higher emotional intelligence, what to name emotions early and often. Okay, and this is to help the kids be able to name the emotions. And this is something, again, Dr. Daniel Siegel talks about. The Whole Brain Child book I highly recommend for all parents to understand. I would actually recommend it to all people because I think it helps us all understand our brains, but certainly for parents. So the idea around naming the emotions, it's like, well, we're feeling it. Why do we need to name it? Which is a fair question. But naming our emotions starts to bridge the two hemispheres, it's often called, the two sides of our brain. So we, and in the Whole Brain Child and I think of many of his other books, Dr. Siegel talks about how to bridge and connect these two parts of our brain because there's the logical side, which is actually the left side. I always get it mixed up. The right side of the body, but the left side of the brain. And this is the structure, the order, and kind of the logical part of our brain. And then the right side of our brain, the left side of our bodies, might be opposite because of the video for you. Um, that is the more emotional, but also the non sequential, so not in order. A lot of people talk about this being connected to our subconscious, the vast subconscious that we have. Um, it's the ability for us to connect. It's non-linear thinking, so it can actually be very creative. I think a lot of high-level scientists, and like Einstein and Tesla and those types, were accessing that part of their brain when they came up with a lot of their discoveries. Many others, of course. And so, by naming the emotion, the child is already, well, and then the adult. Let's be honest, this applies just as much to adults, is already experiencing the feeling. So they have that right brain part of the experience. And by naming it, by giving it words, words are generally connected to the left part of our brain, the logical part. And so this is helping both sides of our brain make sense of our experience. Okay, because part of feeling safe, part of understanding our emotions, part of emotional regulation is making sense of our experience. So we have the feeling, okay, and by feeling the feeling we're making sense of that part of our experience, and then by naming it we're bringing understanding, making sense of the logical part of our experience just by using the words, by giving it voice, that sort of thing. And when we do that, we're helping our child learn to understand themselves in a way that is integrative, is more complete. It's not just, oh, I'm feeling sad. It's like, oh, this is sadness that I'm feeling. I'm sad or I'm confused. And as we mature as people, as our children mature, their emotional experiences get more complicated. Right? I think I love the Inside Out movies, and um, in the first movie you see often just one emotion, but at other times there's two emotions that the main character Riley's experiencing. But in the second one, anxiety comes along, and it's this whole like mix, this whole um, huge soup of different emotions, and it's overwhelming. But if we have, from a younger perspective, as far as our brain's development, an understanding of the basic emotions, it helps us start to make sense more as they get more complex. It's like, oh, I'm feeling sadness and I'm confused about that. Or I'm feeling sadness, but also anger. There's like anger on top of the sadness. And once I calm down a bit, then I feel the sadness, right? It helps them start to make sense of their experience. And again, that's helping them integrate and feel okay, feel safety in their nervous system, because they, when they're feeling angry, they're in fight. So the fight or flight part. And by naming it, by understanding it, it can help bring that high emotional level of charge down a bit. So it's more manageable. Okay? And they can regulate it. So that's the second point of why naming the emotions early and often. And mostly the child's, you can name your own. So they also get to know you. Um, Up to a certain point in child's development, they don't even necessarily have a sense of another person. It's like everybody is one. And then the individuation happens as they get older. But it's important also as they get older, I think, if they have that language, then when you say, hey, you know what, like when that happened, and when you yelled at me, and you're like as if your child has yelled at you, that made me really sad. And this isn't to make your child feel bad, to feel guilty. But as they get older, we can start to let them know the impact that they're having, right? Because this is teaching them about how to be in relationship. Oh, when I get angry and yell, it can affect other people, right? Not that we want to bury that anger, and we don't want to be teaching suppression. We don't want to teach that. But oh, when I yell at mom, she gets upset too. Maybe she gets angry. So then they get to start to see their impact on another person, and what it's like to be in relationship. And they don't have to feel bad about it, but they can at least be aware of it. This is why this second point, I think, is really important. Dr. Daniel Siegel, who has studied this stuff for a long time, this is one of the things that he really talks about in the Whole Brain Child book that I highly recommend. So I'll see you in the next video.